Hello, this is Jordan from JJ Motorsport here. Just wanted to make a video about the lock and load transport system for trailers. After a long time looking around myself for some various different systems and things, I was never overly pleased with the way my car was tied down on the trailer. Always felt that some of the ways I did it and some of the ways I'd seen people do it was putting strain on some of the suspension parts and the steering components and componentry. So yeah, I'd never really been overly pleased with the way I'd done it. I had seen the lock and load system around a few years ago, but at the time they only had sort of chocks that were positioned specifically on the trailer for where you had a specific car, for instance, and also some of the lowered kits that they had didn't work necessarily for me. Obviously people have different trailers and things that they use which have various different tie-down points and systems like that. With my trailer, it doesn't have a lot of tie-down points on it. I didn't spec it that way, but what I did come across recently was the lock and load system with the long E-Tracks, they're called, or the tracks, and they have movable chocks on them. So my trailer is also used for a couple of different cars. Obviously this car here, but it's also used from time to time to tow around a BF Falcon, which is got a wheelbase of about 30 to 32 maybe centimetres longer. So it would have different tie-down points, or different length at the back, sorry, for where the back wheel would be. And so this system really appealed to me because it's got movable chocks, which means you can have cars of different lengths on the trailer, on your same trailer there. So I decided to give this one a go. I've installed the system on the front. And I'm going to be putting the rear tracks on today as well. Obviously I'll take the car off, but I didn't see a lot of informational videos about any of the lock and load systems. So I'd like to go through a couple of points of things that I thought about and considered. So some are, as I mentioned, if you're going to have different vehicles on the same trailer, it's handy being able to move the chocks and put the wheels in different positions. Largely the front wheels are pretty much going to be in the same position, give or take 10-15 centimetres, depending on the vehicle and the load, or the weight in where the vehicle is. But what you want to have is adjustability for the rear, I guess, as well. So that's why this system I think is good. Something else that I needed to consider being a low car at the front is the way that the lock and load systems are with their ratchets. You need room around the wheel, obviously, to operate the ratchet. If you've got body work around each side of the wheel, it's not particularly easy. So something that appealed to me with this system, one of these lock and load systems, is that it has the ability to use the idlers, which I'll show in a bit more detail. You can use these idlers to make the strap sort of come out on a bit of a flat angle to get it away from the coachwork or the bodywork on your car. So that was particularly appealing because, again, when you have lower vehicles, it is a bit difficult clearance-wise to put ratchets and things, particularly close to the tyre, as well as having the relative clearance on the vehicle to make it function properly. So that was something else that appealed to me. I'm a little bit on the safer side when I tow my cars around. Having more straps for me is definitely better than not having enough. You're supposed to have it tied down at 4 points anyway. But the thing that I like about this system is that when you have the chocks that are movable, you don't necessarily have to have chocks on the front and rear of the wheels. These kits come with 2 tracks and 2 chocks, so you could just have the front chocks on, one on each side, for when you're loading the car on, to gauge where you want to put it position-wise. However, because I bought another set of tracks for the rear as well in the kit, which comes with the straps as well as the chocks, I just err on the side of caution a bit, and I like to have the chocks on the back as well. Again, this car doesn't have a handbrake. Obviously it's a manual car, or it's a manual car being a race car. So, there's a lot of possibility of it rolling around if it's not strapped down correctly. You should never leave your car in gear while you're towing. So that's another thing that really appealed to me, is having the ability to move these chocks around, and also the car is going to be very stable, and it's unlikely that the car's going to go anywhere, particularly with those chocks at the front and the rear on both sides of the front wheel line. So that's very much what I'd like to show today on this video. Is again, because I didn't see any videos except for one really, and even on YouTube there were no real instructional videos or of the actual install and things you might want to think about with the install. So I'll go through a few of those things today. So this is what you get in the kit largely. You get 2 of these. This is the track system. It's got a number of bolt holes there, and obviously these tracks are where you can clip in the chocks as well as the straps. And these are the straps that come with the kit as well. So they're 3.6 metres long, I think, from memory. So they have the little clips on the end here. So that's one of the clips. It's got this little lever where you slide the clip in and then release the lever, and that's not going to go anywhere. And then this goes over the tyre, of course. It's got your 3 rubber keepers, if you like, and protectors, and they sort of sit on the tyre itself, and then you lock it in with the idler, which is here. So again, it's got 2 little levers, and you just sort of clip them in like so, and then you can run the ratchet down, and you can either clip it in like onto the track here. So again, you sort of have your distance to operate the ratchet. Or like what I've done on the trailer at the front there, is I've actually removed this section off the ratchet, and I've actually fixed it to the front rail of the trailer. There is actually a bolt hole there, which is an M10 size. So yes, you can actually do that as well. You need to make sure that you're not going to rub the strap on the rail particularly much, so you don't want to wear that out, of course, so the strap ends up getting frayed or anything. But yes, so this is ultimately what comes in the system. It doesn't come with any bolts to actually bolt the system down, so you can use your own sort of judgment on that. I've used 1/4-inch bolts because they tend to fit the holes the best. I actually picked that one up from one of the other videos that I saw. And depending on what your floor of your trailer is, so I've got 3mm checker plate on this trailer. I just wanted a little bit more support, so I've actually made up all these little just bits of flat bar steel and painted them, and they're installed at various lengths throughout the track underneath, just for a bit more support, a bit more structural integrity in terms of the pulling of the forces, and I've got them positioned where the loads really sort of are going to be pulled up from where the straps are clipped in, just to try and give it that bit more support and limit the possibility of failure. Now I'll show you those when I put the rear sections on. and I'll also show you the positioning of the bolts. You don't need to have them on every single bolt hole. There's actually 24 holes on each side of the track. I've used 14 of those holes. You don't have to have it bolted down in every single hole. But yes, it's one of those systems where you can make your own decisions. I'll show you the positioning on my tracks as to why I've put the bolts where I have. Again, it sort of relates similar to the flat bar underneath. It relates to where the forces are going to be on the track relative to the pulling up of the straps. So what I'll do is I'll get the car off the trailer and I'll give you a quick look at the system without the car on it, and do a bit of a run through as I put the system on the back. Now, just before I do that though, I will point out that like I said before, I have another car that will go on the trailer. So what I've done is I've actually measured the wheelbase of that other car comparative to this one, and it's about 30 or 32 centimetres longer. So as a result, what I'll probably do is I'll put the track on with the start of the track sort of relatively close to where the end of the track will be relatively close to the wheel, so that I can still tie it down. But then there'll be plenty of room behind, so when I put the longer wheelbase car on, it'll still go on the track and there'll be enough room for the tie down to work as it's designed to function. So that's just something to consider before you start installing, is whether or not you're going to have other vehicles on there and whether or not that position will still work once you've installed the tracks, because you don't want to be drilling 50 holes in your trailer and then realising that it's in the wrong spot and then you're drilling a whole bunch more. So you also want to have a look as well underneath the trailer relative to where you position that track before you start drilling, because you need to look and find out where your support crossbars are underneath the floor, because unless you want to start drilling holes and putting riv nuts in or tapping threads into your floor, which probably that definitely wouldn't be secure enough, in my opinion. You want to have a look at where those crossbars are so that you can make sure that you can get underneath and still do up the nuts and with the washers on them. I'm actually using cone nuts because they don't really vibrate loose at all, so they are definitely the best option, given the advice that I've been given. And yeah, so I'll run through that. I'll get the car off the trailer now and show you what to do in terms of installing these tracks. Okay, so as you can see, the tracks there, you've got the removable chocks here, so they're pretty easy to put in and out. Yeah, so you just pick up the lever. Oops. Pick up the lever there, and then you just pop it in. Make sure you get there's a little tab on the front as well, so you want to make sure you get that in as well. So put those in, and then release the tab, and then that's not going to pop out. So you know you can have your wheels in there. Again, you got your idlers there, and got the ratchet. In my case, got the ratchet put on the front there and bolted to the trailer. So got the pair there. So obviously I measured the track of the wheels before I popped it on, and I also made sure that the spacing at the front was correct in terms of where I wanted it, in terms of the length on the trailer too. So made sure they were the same distance on each side. And as you can see, I've got sort of bolts, two there, one, two under there. So you sort of want your bolts sort of roughly where the load is going to get pulled up from the straps. And if you have a look under here, you can see I've got some which have got the flat bar on it as well. So that just gives it a bit more extra support when you're pulling the load up with the strap. So just something to consider. So now I'll hop on into the back ones. I've already measured them, so I know that those ones on the front are 12.9 or 129 mil from the edge, and I obviously want them in a straight line to run straight along with the other ones. And I've already measured it, and I know that I want it from the back of this ledge here. I want it 180 mil, so 18 centimeters from there, and then that should give me a good range for both cars. And so that one there, along with that one, which will be put on there from time to time as well. So I'll jump into those now, and you should be able to see the way that I do them. I'll quickly give you a run through as well of what parts you might need to get the job done. Okay, so these are the bits that I use and you'll probably need just to get the job done. So obviously you've got your pair of tracks there, got a pair of gloves, now I've got a drill driver and a drill. Now I've got a cobalt bit in that, 1/4 inch bit, because obviously the 1/4 inch bolts. Just the cobalt gets through the steel a bit quicker. You know, if you're going to be using the standard drill bits that you sort of get in your kits and stuff, you're going to find you'll blunt them pretty easily and quickly. These things tend to make very light work of the mild steel on the trailers. Now also, I've got obviously my cone lock nuts, got my bolts, and plenty of washers. They're the high tensile washers, but you know, whether or not that makes a difference, probably not so much for this. And there I've got all of the bits of steel that I made up, cut out a flat bar and just drilled all the holes so they match. And so underneath the trailer, that'll go pretty smoothly. Now going underneath the trailer, obviously having a look and just seeing you've got all this bar work under here, sort of where your frame supports go. So when you put your tracks on, just make sure that you have a look, see if you can line up where those bars are when you've got the tracks there, and then that way hopefully you won't go drilling through into any of the bars, which will make it a lot harder to obviously do the nut up from the bottom. So yep, with all that being said, I'll get stuck into it. And the one other thing that you might need is I've got some spray compound from, you know, like cutting oil, but it's the Sutton Venom spray variety, so just makes it a bit easier. The only thing is, obviously, once you drill all your holes, you know, you've got to pick up the tracks again and just sort of wipe down, clean down the trailer. I use brake cleaner for, well, pretty much everything cleaning wise in the workshop, but yeah, just make sure you clean that all up before you actually screw or bolt the tracks down for good. Just makes it a bit nicer and cleaner, and you know, it won't attract too much grime with any of that cutting oil still sitting there. Okay, guys, without further ado, I'll get into it. Okay, so after all of that, you can see here I've basically figured out where I want all the bolts, and what I've done is I've just drilled the bolts, drilled the holes and put the bolts in, just so I know underneath that everything's going to be okay clearance wise. So you can sort of see under there, I know that everything's going to be able to be bolted. So again, 13 per side, Now I've got, obviously there's going to be, here is where the strap's going to connect. Unfortunately there's a beam running underneath there, but I'll put the metal bars, those, on both of those, so it should give it a bit more support. And then obviously the centre of the wheel goes here where the mark is, so it doesn't need to be quite as bolted down there, like, sorry, not as common, or same amount of bolts there, just because the wheel's going to be on it pushing it down anyway. But then here you can see I've got 2 bolts just there, where I'm going to put those supports under again, that flat bar, and because that's where the idlers are going to go. And then obviously I'm going to strap it, put the ratchet in at the back here. Now I've also got 2 there additionally, because when the other car goes on, it'll be about where those 2 bolts are there. So again, there's enough with those supports under it again, there's enough of that in there to give it the support that it needs for when that car's on. Now I'll basically take this off now and give it a clean, because you can see all of the metal shavings and whatnot, as well as there's the cutting spray. So I want to clean that up and sort it out, and then I will basically go and put all of the nuts and bolts together and have that one done, and then I'll get started on the other side and I'll show you what they look like when it's all together. And then I'll pull the car back up onto the trailer and strap everything down, and you'll see everything all nice and strapped down and installed. And like I say, hopefully this answers any questions that anyone has in terms of the bolt size, 1/4 inch, you know, the length. I've gone with 1 inch bolts, just so it gives you plenty of thread to go through not only the washer, but then the track, and then the washer underneath, and the nut, obviously get enough thread on, but also it's taking into account that flat bar, which is 5mm flat bar. So you know, that obviously adds to the length. So anyway, I'll crack on and sort all of this out, get it all installed, finished off, and then do a summary at the end. Actually, I might mention before I carry on is that you can see here, because it's a beaver tail trailer, there was a bit of a slope there that needed to be dealt with. So you may have seen me moving around a fair bit, because I needed to make sure that this was going to be still pretty straight once the track was going to be bolted down. So what I ended up doing was going and getting some bolts that didn't have the cone nuts with them, and that's just normal nuts, because once you undo the cone nuts it's a pain. But anyway, just so that I could bolt down one end and then bolt down the other end, because obviously once one end was bolted, the other one was sticking up in the air. So to make sure I got all of the bolts in the right position, I needed it to be bolted down at both ends. So that was just a little bit of mucking around, but you know, half a minute of mucking around to make sure that everything was done correctly. So anyway, I'll get it all sorted out and check back shortly. Okie dokes, all done. So that's what it looks like with the tracks on, and all the, you know, the tracks at the front as well. So what I'll do now is I'll pull the trailer out and load the car up, strap it down, and see how it looks. Alright, so it's a little bit dark now, but I've got the system on the back. You can see it's all tied down, and it all looks pretty good. So I think I'm going to actually tow it home and give it a bit of a test out and see how it sorts itself out on the way. See if it stretches at all. Obviously I'll tidy up these straps, but yeah, as you can see, I've selected the points where I've got some reinforcement underneath, there and there, and that's going to work out really well, I think. For those wanting to see how the system works in terms of doing it up, obviously you've got the strap as I showed before with the the strap being hooked in at the back there, and then through the idler into the tracks. Got the chocks there, and it literally is just a case of take the slack out of the rope, out of the strap, and then just ratchet it up. And it doesn't even really have to be that tight. Lock it down and then sort of roll up your strap and get it out of the way, and that's pretty much all you need to do, and that's not going to go anywhere. Yeah, like I say, I'm really surprised at how solid it is and how well the car towed on the trailer now with zero movement. It's very confidence inspiring. It's great. Quickly show you on the back as well, because obviously this one's more conventional rather than the front being with the ratchet being stuck to the trailer. So again, this is with the clip. Got the ratchet clipped in at the back. So, oops, pop it back in, and again, just take your slack out of the strap and then ratchet it up. So again, it doesn't even really need to be that tight, and that's not going anywhere. And I've got flexibility there for the rear of other vehicles as well. You know, might be able to put that up the front because again it's low, and it may well be low enough to get through another car, but anyway, all positive. Okay, it's been a couple of weeks since I put the system on the trailer, and the day I installed it, I towed the car home that night, and gee, it performed really well. Barely even felt the trailer behind the car, so even the way I had it strapped down before, the car that is, on the trailer, there was obviously stretch in the straps, and even though they were all 2.5 ton straps and there were 4 of them with ratchets, the car must have still been moving just that little bit, just enough to notice it. And like I say, I was never happy with the way I did it before, but this system's been fantastic. I've been away to a race meeting since as well, and the car towed the trailer really well. Again, barely even felt it behind me, and that was even with tools and everything loaded in the back of the car, as well as the race car on the trailer. Just did not feel that trailer much at all, and I'm really happy with the way the Chock system worked out. You can put other cars on there if you need to, but yeah, just thrilled with the way that it turned out. It's definitely the best tight end system I've found by far. It got a bit of interest at the race meetings as well. A few people, a number of people actually saw the system when I turned up, and also when I was packing up, and came over and talked to me. So unstrapping and strapping took twice as long as it should have, because people were stopping me and talking to me about it, which is fine. And it was really good to see some interest about it. People with a couple of different kinds of trailers, tilter trailers, and a few others with different flooring systems are actually interested in using it and seeing how they can fashion something up to use this E-Chock system as well. So look, big thumbs up from me. Very happy with it. Can't wait to keep using it. Hopefully it gives me many years of problem-free towing and load restraining. Like I say, it's definitely a reliable load restraint system is what I was after, and it seems to be the way to go. So straps didn't stretch at all. That night that I towed it home, the first night that I towed the trailer home with the car on it, it was an interesting trip. There was some roadworks that weren't there in the morning when I came to work. So got a good testing from a testing perspective, over different road surfaces and bumps and things, and the car just didn't move. Naturally, I backed it off, and the beauty of it is I can loosen the straps off and the chocks still hold the car in place with no handbrake and not in gear or anything. So look, big thumbs up from me. Hopefully you got some information that's useful out of this in terms of the mounting or the way I mounted it, the kind of bolts you use in terms of strength, but also the size. 1/4 inch seems to be the way to go. Maybe put some metal plate like I did underneath the trailer deck, Things to consider when you're putting it on. Obviously, car placement and any other cars that you may put on the trailer, but also thinking about where your cross support members are underneath the deck of the car trailer floor, things like that. But yeah, look, I'm really happy with the way the system's worked. So always happy to see or hear any comments that anyone has or any questions I might be able to help with. But look, it's a big thumbs up from me, this system. So yeah, hopefully if you're not too sure about what you want to use for towing and load restraint for your car on the trailer, this might be the way to go for you.